Hello, and welcome to this episode of the 5G Factor. This is a Futurum Tech Webcast series focused on all things 5G. And I'm joined today by my co host and fellow analyst here at Futurum Research, Ron Westfall. Hello, Ron. Always a pleasure to see you.
You bet, Shelly. Likewise. And yeah, taking a break from the Winter Olympics with the Mobile World Congress Olympics ahead of us. So this is, I think, great timing on our part.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, speaking of great timing, we're going to kick off our show today talking about 5G and the Super Bowl. And I have to admit that I had no dog in that race and I cared not. I mean, truly, at one point in time on Sunday, I had to Google who are the Bengals playing? So please don't throw things at me by hearing when you hear that. But when it's not your team and you're not a rabid football fan, the Bengals beat us, and it was so happy to see them playing. I was they lost. It kind of made me happy too. Please don't throw things at me. But of what I always enjoy, and I know many people do, is many of the ads that are featured during the Super Bowl. But one thing that I noticed early on was, so Los Angeles's SoFi Stadium is a Wi-Fi, 5G enabled stadium, and it was packed to the brim. And Qualcomm CEO Cristiano Amon shared a speed test from a Verizon phone during the game, and it was really awesome. He showed a screen cap of download speeds of 3939.6 Mbps and upload speeds of 125.58. And that is very cool. That is fast in either direction. And with a stadium filled with celebrities and fans and everybody using their phones like crazy, that's what you want to see, right? So that was pretty exciting. And then I'll move on here and talk about Super Bowl ads. In Super Bowl ads, 5G was a theme there as well. We saw some ads from Verizon, and I saw a campaign from T-Mobile that I thought was really clever, featuring Dolly Parton and her goddaughter Miley Cyrus teaming up to fight the good fight and do it for the phones, promoting its 5G network, which is, as we've covered here on our most recent show, T-Mobile's network has been rated the fastest 5G network in the country. And T-Mobile's extended range 5G network covers some 310 million people nationwide, with 200 million covered by T-Mobile's super fast ultra capacity 5G. That's a mouthful. And we've seen also, T-Mobile boasts, of course, hundreds of upgraded and newly installed 5G microsites and small cells and 5G upgrades at LAX. And, we're seeing that across the country at airports across the board. They've got a new state-of-the-art 5G system at SoFi Stadium, which is funny because I just talked about Verizon speed test at SoFi, and enhancements in other event venues. So it's an exciting time, and delivering, blazing speed, of course, is what T-Mobile and all telco providers are all about. And I thought it was just hilarious. If you didn't see the Dolly Parton ad, she starts out, she talks a little bit about when she sees a problem, she tries to find a solution, and she's got to get something off of her chest. And so she reaches into her somewhat, storied, ample bosom and into her top and grabs out her cell phone and, talks about the ad talks about 5G phones shouldn't be trapped on limited 5G networks, and you should rescue your phone and act today. This is an aggressive marketing campaign that, of course, taps into the power of these two celebrities and their very distinctive audiences. Dolly Parton has an audience really that comprises of all ages. Miley's audience is, generally speaking, a younger group. And 5G did, not 5G, T-Mobile did some interesting things in terms of donating to a charity that Miley's passionate about that serves homeless, and donating to Dolly's charity. So it was just a really cool, I enjoyed that spot more than many of the others at the Super Bowl. Did you happen to see it, Ron?
Yes, I did. And I think what really helped was that the Super Bowl went down to the wire. It was
Yeah,
actually an exciting game. So
yeah,
that kept folks, captive, paying
sure.
attention to the commercials that are always highly promoted and highly anticipated. And as a result, since it wasn't a bore fest, I think that just created a great market opportunity to
Yeah.
really elevate 5G's profile across general audiences. We're getting past early adoption phase. There's clearly been a lot of investment
Right.
in nationwide 5G capabilities here in the US, but certainly in other key parts of the world, Asia and Europe, et cetera. It's an oncoming fabric that will enable better 5G experiences. At the very least, better bandwidth and lower latency. And I think it's also interesting that 5G is certainly a way for the mobile operators to differentiate amongst each others. And so
Yeah.
T-Mobile is, taking I think a early step in that regard and comparing itself to Verizon. And as you noted, Shelly, that having more coverage capabilities and so forth.
Right.
And I think it's also important to note that that also includes fixed wireless access capabilities. I think
Right.
that we'll see more of FWA as the operators try to figure out how to get broadband out to a broader audience,
Right.
particularly in rural areas and outer suburban areas, where it's just very difficult to cost justify fiber to all those particular locations. Ideally, yes, you run fiber out to every location, but economically, it's just not feasible in the near future. And as a result, we can anticipate that FWA will play an important role where it's just not possible to get fiber out. And that particularly applies to places where copper legacy connections are pretty much a hindrance. That includes DSL on the telco side, as well as older cable DOCSIS implementations.
Right.
And yeah, this is very exciting. I think we're talking about with 5G capabilities. When it comes to 5G FWA, T-Mobile can say that they actually have over 646,000 customers to date, whereas Verizon is only about 223,000, and that they can reach more than 30 million, whereas Verizon is about 20 million. And that I think is great news, because this is the competition that we all value in terms of pushing forward cutting edge technologies, let alone technologies that will have a society wide impact such as 5G.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, all in all, I thought it was a very clever campaign, and it was an aggressive campaign. There was even a tagline in one of the ads that Dolly did that said, "Rescue your AT&T phone, act today," which I thought was really interesting. Okay, so moving on, we're
Right
going to
on.
talk now about 5G core and the key role that 5G core will play for communication services providers in really unleashing their 5G potential. So, I know we've seen more CSPs launch and turn on 5G networks over the course of the last year. We are far from, full speed ahead or massive adoption on that front. And we know that the evolution from 4G to 5G is likely to we talk about this a lot, is likely to play a key role in communication services providers' ability to compete, to grow revenue, and to deliver what it is their customers are looking for and their customers demand. So, but the build out of 5G is different. And that's where 5G core comes in. So let's talk with us a little bit about that, Ron.
Yeah, I think with Mobile World Congress ahead of us in just around the corner, I think it's important to get a level set about 5G. Here we have been singing the praises of 5G with the Super Bowl commercials, and what has enabled that is what's called a non-standalone implementation, where the mobile operators have to use their existing 4G LTE networks and effectively combine it with a new 5G offering.
Right.
And so that is, a fundamental step. It's just economic reality and a whole host of capabilities that have to be built up before a mobile operator can cut over to what is called a 5G standalone network. And that is really, the if you will, the holy grail for mobile operators, is getting to the 5G standalone network. And the NSA is a stepping stone toward that. And
Right.
so we're seeing progress in that area. I think one key aspect is that the mobile operators understand they have to implement what's called a 5G core, and that allows them to operate 5G new radio capabilities, for example, without having to continually interwork with the 4G LTE network. And so what we have today is what's called dual connection mode. And that is really compromising the ability of the 5G networks to reach, their maximum potential. It creates more complexity in the access part of the network, and it also increases energy requirements and so forth. And so, fundamentally, we know the mobile operators want to move on from that. And one key part of that is demonstrating that 5G core is ready for prime time. And I think
Right.
we're seeing that with a very important partnership between Ericsson and Vodafone Germany, as well as Vodafone UK, focusing on Vodafone Germany, because I think it's demonstrating how a mobile operator can really get this kick started to really get the market
Right.
motivated to, like, okay, this is where we could see some difference makers. And I
Right.
believe with the 5G core, we can see these more compelling use cases. For example, on the consumer side, multiplayer AR gaming. I think that is definitely something that will gain more traction as soon as 5G standalone networks are available. And likewise, on the enterprise side, Industry 4.0 applications, such as uh, the virtual factory maintenance, that is getting a lot of traction and attention. And I think that's going to become a more valid during the course of 2022. But it certainly, we'll find out more at Mobile World Congress. But certainly, looking further ahead, that
Right.
definitely is the direction. And I think this is something that is, just enabling the mobile operator to really have a platform that can enable that network slicing, where they can have a dedicated network or a private network that is very specific to that customer's need. And so that can definitely catalyze, for example, Internet of Things capabilities that we've heard a lot about, like
Right.
5G and IoT were joined at the hip. And we haven't really seen a whole lot of 5G IoT capabilities. But, well, good news is 5G core will enable that, I think, to become definitely more mainstream, as well as, again, enabling that programmability, that per use case networking that
Right.
will be, I think, so attractive. Because if you're an enterprise or a business or whatever, you definitely want a network that's going to align with your fundamental business objectives, and not having to, shoehorn,
Right.
capabilities, or having to compromise on, being able to focus on your, topmost business objectives.
Right.
So yeah, I think
Absolutely.
this is a showcase that is going to again be very well timed at Mobile World Congress. I think what's actually very interesting about this particular partnership between Ericsson and Vodafone Germany is that it's showing that container based, uh, cloud native uh, core capabilities are being implemented. That this
Right.
is something that is being validated in proof of concept and testing and so forth. And now let's put the pedal to the metal and let's get this out to the mass market.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of your favorite phrases. Let's put the pedal to the metal. I like it. Well, that was good stuff. Okay, moving right along, you mentioned Ericsson. We're going to talk a little bit now about a partnership between Ericsson and a Swedish-based company called Kollmorgen, who are testing 5G for industrial robots. And so, as I said, Kolmorgen is a Swedish-based manufacturer, and the company joined Ericsson's Industry 4.0 partner program last April. And they're now exploring how 5G can enhance mobile robots in partnership with Ericsson, and they're working to prove that the company's NDC solutions are 5G ready. And so I thought this was interesting. And again, we're going into Mobile World Congress, and lots of cool things will be on display there, including things like this. And so what's happened is that Kolmorgen has performed tests that so far appear to be promising. They're testing 5G capabilities against Wi-Fi, and the tests were run using a private 5G network setup. Something that we talk a lot about around here, in addition to trials in a 4G public network. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to show that Kolmorgen's NCD solutions are communication agnostic, which is kind of a big deal. And The recent test switched a Wi Fi comms link with a 5G one in one of the vehicle control units. And the results were that there was absolutely no difference in stability on either the 5G or the Wi Fi network. And that's what you want, right? And so Kollmorgen's NDC, I think I said it incorrectly last time. NDC products include hardware, software, navigation capabilities that help improve the efficiency of autonomous guided vehicles, which are used in manufacturing and warehouse settings. And the company's clients are not small. They include companies like Toyota Material Handling Europe and Jung Heinrich AG, and I probably butchered that, Mitsubishi's Logis Next Europe, and others. And the company's products are also used by makers of AGVs in creating driverless logistics automation solutions. So I thought that this is, we do a lot. We're actually working on a research project right now focusing on warehousing, automation, robotic solutions. And so this caught my eye. And I think that props here to programs like Ericsson's Industry 4.0 partnership program, because being able to partner with companies who are doing and developing cool solutions like this and, using the expertise and the technology of Ericsson and their team, that's how we've talked a lot here before, Ron, about smart partnerships, and how they're really the key to great progress moving forward. And I think this is an example of a smart partnership and getting some really good results there. So I thought it was cool.
Yeah, and cool it is. I think in addition to smart partnerships are also smart acquisitions.
Right.
And as we know, Ericsson acquired Cradlepoint for over $1 billion, and Reese is now in the process of acquiring Vonage for
Yeah.
$6.2 billion.
Yeah.
And clearly, these bets are targeted at the enterprise space, the Industry 4.0 arena. And I think this is a smart moves on Ericsson's part for the reasons you outlined, Shelly, in terms of these, really fascinating partnerships and pushing forward
Yeah.
these robotic capabilities, which always captures the imagination when you're seeing it being done in a real world fashion. But also, it's quite simply a target rich opportunity.
It
There
is
are over
indeed.
14 million industrial sites around the world,
Right.
and you don't have to capture every single one of them, obviously, but certainly, a key percentage of that is just, clearly a way for Ericsson and its partners to define success, such as Kolllmorgen, which sounds like a really interesting prog band, and
Yeah.
that's how I can remember the name of this new partnership. It's definitely one I'll be paying attention to.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I thought it was like I said, we're elbows deep in a research project on this very topic, and so what was happening there caught my eye. I thought it was interesting. So, with that, we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about Cisco and Cisco's entree into the private 5G market. And again, we touched on this earlier. We talk a lot about private 5G here, and it's a crowded market, but Cisco's diving in. Private networks are not new. We've seen companies like AT&T, Verizon, Amazon, Ericsson, and others doing some really cool stuff with private G networks. Cisco says that what they're doing won't compete with telco's private 5G. Ron, talk with us a little bit more about what you know about that.
Well, I think you're hitting the nail on the head, Shelley. The fact is that Cisco's entering a already crowded 5G private network
Right.
market. And so that begs the question, why? Well, it's very, I think, straightforward. The fact is that Cisco has a huge enterprise presence and
Absolutely.
huge influence across the enterprise realm. And so this is something that's well suited for them to address. And I'm certainly looking forward to hearing more details about this initiative at Mobile World Congress, where they are going to again showcase, what their 5G private network offering is about. And so, one key aspect is hopefully more details on the mid-band spectrum
Right.
that they will be supporting in terms of this offering. And as we know, many organizations are using mid-band CBRS spectrum in order to, initiate and also use 5G private networking, as well as 4G and 5G private networking capabilities. And so, this is, I think, something that Cisco will obviously address. progress. And so this is something that we'll have to wait for more detail on. And I think it's going to be interesting because, with this crowded mix, yes, you have Ericsson and Nokia, who are, high pedigree 5G equipment suppliers competing in
Right.
this space. Certainly, the Verizons and other major operators are already targeting the space. AT&T naturally, and likewise, the major cloud players. You
Right.
have obviously Amazon and Google, and so now the operators and the cloud players are kind of eyeing each other now. Like,
Right.
okay, who's going to be the first one to put that proverbial knife in the back
Right.
when it
We're gonna
comes to these market
we're gonna
opportunities.
we're gonna
And,
duke it out.
yeah, right. And they're the startups like Betacom. And
Right.
so I think Cisco can actually make a difference here because with all of the attention that's been paid to the space, it hasn't really been overwhelming in terms of market expansion.
Right.
We're seeing some of the initial growth projections not quite panning out, and I don't think Cisco by itself is going to cause a massive uptick. But I think it can move the needle because, again, what we were talking about, the fact that it is such a major player in the enterprise space, I think this will help adoption across more enterprises in terms of
Right.
using 5G private networking. That wasn't quite there before because it was, for example, a maybe a startup that was making the offering, or they aren't quite sure about using a cloud provider for 5G private networking,
Right.
et cetera. And I think one thing that Cisco was keen on emphasizing is the fact that their offering can be used by a mobile operator. This is not, a
Oh
direct
yeah.
competition offering at all. And so we could anticipate, a fair amount, I believe, of service providers, quite simply white labeling the Cisco offering and
Right.
making it their own brand. And so I think this will actually help rekindle more interest in 5G private networking, which is there. It's
Right.
definitely there. It's just
Absolutely.
how aggressive will this market advance over the next couple of years plus is now there's more hedging, and I think this will help dampen some of that hedging because of Cisco's entry into this market.
Absolutely. And, as you mentioned early on, they have the enterprise customer base, they have the trust of the enterprise customer base. There's a lot to be said for partnering with, that depending on the initiatives you're trying to roll out. So it'll be interesting. We will, of course, look for more information from Cisco on that front and keep our eyes on what's happening there for sure.
Yeah, I agree, and I think one more thing I want to add is that it will be a consumption-based model, pay
Yeah.
as you go as a service, and I
Yay.
think that will also help. They're
Yeah.
not going to be locked into some 2-year contract like with the initial mobile phones or any
Right.
smartphone offerings and things like that. I
Yeah.
think this will definitely entice the enterprises to definitely investigate more because they're not going to be in a lock-in contract to get their private network up and running.
Yeah. No, and I think that that's really an important point, Ron, that you mentioned. I think that people are not only enterprises, but organizations of all size are really realizing that when you're looking at adopting some kind of technology solution or any kind of solution, it's like, can I avoid vendor lock in? Because the digital landscape changes so quickly, needs change so quickly, consumption based models are so attractive, and really situations where you can enter into a relationship with a vendor and you're not going to get locked in. I think that gives a lot of peace of mind. So I think that's important regardless of what you're selling, to think about how you can craft your offering in such a way that it is consumption based and it's something that doesn't tie a customer in on a long-term basis. I just don't think that's good business really. I mean, it is good business for the brand, but it's not good business for customers. And I think customers are getting savvy enough that they're saying, we don't want that. You know?
Yeah, I think you're seeing that across many market segments. It's not just
Absolutely. No,
telecommunications, but for
across the board.
different car service and so forth. Yeah, there's just
Yeah,
I think more of that flexibility, and
yeah,
I think this is a difference maker in
yeah,
terms of speeding up adoption rates. Right
yeah.
on.
I agree. I agree. All right. Well, with that, we are going to move into the final topic for our 5G Factor show today. And we are going to talk about, we mentioned Vodafone earlier, and we're going to talk about Vodafone deploying Oracle technology to help support 5G standalone network core. So, Ron, finish us up with tell us about what that is.
Yeah, I think it's fitting that we're finishing up on the European side of the
Absolutely.
market with the Mobile World Congress taking place in Barcelona. And specifically, yeah, this is Vodafone UK
Mhm.
working with Oracle, that is selecting Oracle.
Right.
Specifically, it's a cloud native policy management solution.
Yeah.
And I think this is, again, enabling these use cases that I think are going to make a difference in terms of being able to monetize an offering. One example that Vodafone UK is inciting with this deal is the idea of holographic calls,
Oh,
i.e.,
yeah.
like an emergency call to Obi-Wan Kenobi type capability. Finally, it will become something that will be mainstream and not relegated to the Star Wars
Right.
sphere. And I think that would be most welcome by a lot of consumers. You don't have to be a Star Wars file to appreciate a holographic call, but I think it can definitely help with things like digital twin
Right.
demonstrations and just a host of collaboration possibilities there. And that I think is going to be a more compelling use case that will pick up steam. And
Right.
likewise, as we talked about, enabling more of the industry 4.0 capabilities, more of the game streaming capabilities, again, the multi game AR
Right.
type of game streaming. And what I think is important here is that this is demonstrating that the operators are really becoming adept at using cloud native technologies.
Right.
In this case, Oracle made sure to align their policy management solution with the Cloud Native Computing Foundation guidelines. And so this is again, an example of how standards and so forth can help
Right.
with these types of implementations. And it's also important that it's also harking back to what we're talking about with 5G core. Again, on the policy management side, we have purpose-built 5G core policy control function, or PCF, working with pre-5G PCRF capabilities in order to ease this programmability and also having policy enforcement across these 5G offerings.
Right.
And lo and behold, kind of full circle, yes, Vodafone UK, just like Vodafone Germany, is using Ericsson's cloud native 5G core implementation. And so this is, I think, a great example of where interworking interoperability between multiple vendors is making
Right.
these new 5G capabilities a market reality, and certainly at least where we're having major operators adopting it and touting it and looking to advance them during
Yeah.
2022, which will obviously be a pivotal year for all of 5G.
Absolutely. And, bottom line, this is all about better serving customers and, helping make more intelligent policy decisions, deploy and test new services for the standalone 5G network, and to also get new 5G offerings in the hands of customers more quickly. I mean, that's beneficial across the board. It's a terrific partnership, very smart. And, again, when your end goal is all about better serving your customers, um, I think you're well positioned for success. So I thought this was exciting news for sure.
Oh, I agree, and I think this is what we envisioned. That this is an ecosystem play. This
Right.
is where partnerships are going to be more vital than ever before as we get more toward an open 5G model
Right.
and more of an open source approach versus some of the proprietary implementations of the past that had that vendor lock-in
Right.
trade off that we touched
Right.
on and so forth, heavier costs on the capex side and so on. And yeah,
Right.
we're transitioning away from that.
Yeah. And that's a good thing. That's a
Yeah,
very good thing.
right on.
Absolutely. Okay, well, with that, that's a wrap for our show. To our audience, whether you're watching this on YouTube or whether you're listening by way of your favorite streaming platform, we always appreciate you hanging out with us. We'll be back here again next week and look forward to seeing you then and bringing you all the news that we think is interesting of the week about 5G and the 5G ecosystem. And we'll have one more show before we head off to Mobile World Congress. And following that, we'll probably have some really interesting news as well. So for both Ron and myself, thank you for hanging out with us, and we'll see you again next week.